Hi friends, welcome back to Love Good Kitchen. My name is Matthew. Thanks for joining me today. We are going to be making the sugar cookie, the one that I am famous for, infamous for. It's been around in my family for a long time. This is well, we call them cutout cookies. First of all, we didn't call them sugar cookies, but that's essentially what they are. My grandmother made them, not only for Christmas time, the holidays, but at other times of the year as well. And then my mother has made them for a long time. She is famous where they live for these cookies. She takes them to all kinds of events, parties, etc. And we're continuing on that tradition. So I didn't know where the recipe came from. I knew that they were called Ethel's sugar cookies, but we didn't have an Aunt Ethel or a Grandma Ethel or anyone named Ethel, so I didn't know what that was. Come to find out a couple of years ago that it's actually from the 1963 Betty Crocker's cookie book. So not really a secret, but I can show you how we do it. Now you can't do variations on this. For flavoring, you could put in a little bit of almond extract or some other flavors. I also do a chocolate version of this sugar cookie. I know, what? And I will show that to you at some other time in another video. Today we're going to do the classic standard version. So I do have my stand mixer out. Let's turn that on. You don't have to worry about preheating the oven quite yet because this dough does need to chill for at least an hour before you roll it out to cut the cookies. I will tell you that if you're in a rush, you don't have to chill the dough, but you do then have to be a lot more careful when you're rolling it out to keep your rolling pin lightly dusted because the dough will be softer and you don't want it to stick. So it's a little bit harder to do, but you can do it in a pinch, and I have done that. So you don't have to chill it, but I recommend doing that for ease of assembly. Okay, in the bowl of your stand mixer, by the way, you don't have to use a stand mixer. You can use a hand mixer. You can use no mixer at all. You can use a spoon and your own arm. It's just gonna take a little bit longer. Today, we're gonna use a stand mixer. I've got my Pampered Chef stand mixer out. So to that, we're going to add 3/4 cup of shortening. This is vegetable shortening, and this is the perfect example of a good time to use your Pampered Chef measure-all cup because it's so easy to get the product out of here rather than scraping around in a traditional measuring cup or something to try to get something like this out. It's also great for peanut butter and sour cream and other things like that that can be more difficult to get out of their measuring container. So we're gonna pop that in there, and I like to just give that a little scrape off the paddle so we don't leave any in there. Grab my little towel, and then also we're going to put in 1 cup of granulated sugar. Ta-da, we did it. And then we're going to use this little bowl as a trash bowl. We're going to put in 2 eggs. We'll go ahead and do that. There is 1 and 2. And then we're going to put in 1 teaspoon of vanilla. I know I've talked about this before, but the cap of most vanilla containers is 1 teaspoon. So I don't need to worry about getting out another measuring utensil. We're just going to put a cap full of vanilla in there. Let me set that over there. And that's good for this mixture so far. I'm just going to cream that together. Okay, so we have that thoroughly combined. I will say, if you are not using a mixer and you're doing it by hand, you do want to make sure that everything is evenly incorporated and well mixed. That will make for perfect texture in your cookies. Okay, so now in this bowl here, I have 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour, and we have 1 teaspoon of baking powder and 1 teaspoon of salt. Today I happen to use kosher salt, but you can use whatever salt, table salt, whatever salt you have around. Okay, so now I like to add my dry ingredients to the wet in 2 or 3 stages. I just think it mixes better. You don't have to do that. Again, if you're in a rush, you can put it all in, but I'm gonna put in part of our dry ingredients. I did wash my hands before we started this video, so don't worry. Okay, let's get this mixed. I think we're gonna do that way. You don't need to overdo it. I just let it mix until you just barely can't see any streaks of flour. We're going to add some more. And let it mix. And now for our last bit of flour, salt, and baking powder. Okay, that about does it. I'm going to grab a spoon here. We're just going to get our dough off of the paddle because we don't want to waste any. It is going to be a fairly stiff dough. Okay. Don't want to leave any lovely dough bits on there. If I can get the paddle off. There. It's because I'm doing it backwards, but I feel like it'll be more interesting if you can see what's going on in the bowl rather than have it back to the camera, if you will. Okay. And then there really isn't much on the bottom or the sides. It's one of the reasons why I love this mixer, because it really scrapes around all the sides really well. I'm just doing this to make triple sure we've got it all together. Okay, so now get that off the spoon. Like I said, if you're in a rush, it's a little trickier to work with. You have to know what you're doing. You have to keep your rolling pin dusted with flour so it doesn't stick and such, but you don't have to chill this if you've run out of time. But otherwise, if you do have some time, you want to cover it. You could also just cover it with some plastic wrap, or you could use a clean dish towel. Pop it in the fridge for about an hour or so. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to refrigerate this, and I'll bring you back so we can roll out the dough and cut out our cookies. Okay, we'll be right back. Okay, we're back. Our cookie dough has chilled, and now is the time, or towards the end of your chilling time, you can preheat your oven to 400 degrees. Now, as always, don't worry about trying to write this down as you watch a video. If you're interested in the recipe, because I will put it down below in the show more box, the description box. And you don't need a ton, just a dusting. I might put a little bit more right there for the rolling pin and to dab the cookie cutter in. Some of it is stuck to the inside of the bowl, but like I said before, I don't want to leave any yummy bits in there. So, if you're making these cookies for the Christmas holidays, of course they have many, many, many cookie cutter shapes you can use. Christmas trees, snowflakes, Santa Claus, you name it. Also for other holidays, like maybe you're gonna make hearts for Valentine's. Okay, I'm just gonna do a little bit top there. Okay, and then I'm gonna dust my rolling pin with it, and we're just gonna roll it out. Today, actually I'm using a biscuit cutter, nice round shape. If you don't have these, you could use a drinking glass or something like that. Works just fine. The reason why I use this shape or this cutter most often is because I oftentimes make these to take to work for staff birthdays, and so I do several dozen at a time, and I don't have all day to be doing it. So if I use a round shape like this, then when I go to frost them or ice them, some people say, I can just do a quick swirl and we're done. If you use other shapes or more intricate cutters, then unless you want it to look like a mess, which I do not, it takes more time because you have to get the frosting in those little nooks and edges and things. So speed and efficiency is the main reason why I guess I still have a little more there, using that. This today is a 3-inch biscuit cutter. That will give you just over 2 dozen, I believe. If you use a smaller cutter, for instance, sometimes I use the 2.5-inch, then that will get you just under 3 dozen, like 32, somewhere in there. Can you tell that I have made these quite a few times, so I can tell you pretty much exactly how many it's gonna make. Okay, and I can kind of feel with my hands, that's a pretty good thickness, it's pretty even. So we take our cutter, I'm just gonna drag it through that flour a little bit, and then just start cutting out your circles. You of course want them to be as close together as you can, and you want to utilize as much of your dough as you can, because if you have to keep gathering up the dough, re-rolling it, it just takes more time. Just barely gonna fit in that spot, and we can get one more over here. Okay, and then I did not get it out yet, but what I like to do is use a little offset spatula. You could use a knife or a small serving spatula, whatever, but something like that makes it easier to lift them off and get them on tray. So I start at the edge. I'm just going to lift away the excess. This one looks pretty good. If you have any edges that are just ever so slightly, I don't know what the word is, frayed, I just give it a little tap tap with the back of the spatula. I guess I could bring the tray closer. That would be easier. That would be better. So see, like there was a little excess there, so I just tap it so it evens out. These cookies are going to puff up a little bit, but they don't spread much, and so you don't have to worry. I mean, you'll want them touching, but you don't have to worry about leaving 2 or 3 inches in between cookies or anything. Okay. I have my, well, these are half sheet pans, but you could use cookie sheets or whatever. I use these half sheet pans for pretty much everything. And I have a Silpat down. This is a different brand, but a silicone baking mat. I would recommend either using those or some parchment paper, or you could grease your cookie sheet or whatever pan you're using with some shortening or butter to prevent from sticking. The original recipe says that you do not want to use greased pans. I don't know why. Pretty much everything that I make, I'm gonna grease the pan so that it doesn't stick. There are a few things that you definitely don't want to do that. Well, let's see. We might be able to fit. Do you think? I think we might be able to fit these on here if we're careful. We'll try it. We'll be adventurous. For instance, there are some cakes that you don't want to grease the side of the cake pan because it's sort of like the cake batter needs something to grab onto so that it can rise. And if you grease it, it's just going to be like trying to climb a slippery wall. But most of the time, I think you're going to be just fine to grease your pan, and then you don't have to struggle with trying to lift them off. Okay, I'm going to switch. I'm going to switch pans because we're going to gather up this dough and re-roll it, and it does not affect the quality of your cookies. They are going to be just as yummy and lovely looking as the first ones. So see, now that the dough has warmed up a little bit because it's been out of the fridge, it's a little bit stickier. So you just have to be a little bit more careful. Just a little more dusting of the flour. There, I think that's pretty good. I don't know, can we get one? Oh, we can. Ta-da! Okay. Lift away the edge. Just kind of use a little nudgy nudge motion like this underneath to lift it up. This one might be a little funny shaped because I had to really get under there. Like I said, the dough is warming up, so. But, as I mentioned, okay, we're back. So I finished rolling and cutting out the dough. I got them onto the cookie tray, and there was not enough dough left for a full one. I just sort of freeform did a little baby cookie. I'm sure one of my boys will eat that one right up. So, let's see. Yes, my oven is finished preheating. 400 degrees. They're going to go in for 6 to 8 minutes. I always do mine for 7 minutes. It's going to depend on your oven and what kind of pan you're using, but you definitely don't want to overbake these. You might find that they'll get just a little bit light brown on the very edge, just a little bit, or not at all. But this is not a cookie where you want like golden brown on the edges. No, at least that's my preference. I like a cookie that's not going to fall apart, but is also nice and soft. If you like crispy, crunchy cookies, then obviously you can bake them longer. But that's what we're going to do. 7 minutes. I'm going to put these in and I'll bring you back when they're done. Okay, the timer went off. It's time to get these cookies out of the oven. Well, those ones towards the bottom of the pan that I tried to squeeze in there, they did sort of run against each other, but it's fine. Once they're cool, I'll just use my little spatula to break it apart and it'll be fine. There's our second pan. Turn that off, and that off, and that off. Okay. Hold these up so you can see. Aren't they beautiful? Some of them, well, like the tiny cookie, it is a little bit brown on the very, very edge, but most of them are just perfect. I know it might seem at first like maybe they're not done. They are, and they're going to be delicious. You're going to want to let them cool completely before you try to do anything with them. After 5 or 10 minutes, if you want to, you can just give them a light turn to release them from the tray, or with your offset spatula or spatula, just a very gentle nudge underneath if you want to make sure that they're going to release, but you don't have to do that. So to frost them, here's the deal. If I'm making many dozen of them to take to work or an event or something, the easiest thing to use, and you're going to laugh at this, the easiest thing to use is a can of white frosting from the store-bought. Not cream cheese, not, they have some other flavors, just, it'll say white frosting. There are a few tricks though. When you first open the can, you want to take your knife or whatever, and you want to really get in there and stir around almost like you're whipping it. It makes a big difference in the ease of application onto your cookie, and it just, I don't know, it lightens it, makes it better. If you don't use all of your frosting and you put the lid on and keep it in the fridge, it'll keep for a long time in the fridge. And then you go to use it again, make sure that you don't have the metal, there's like a little foil cover. Okay, so we are having a day with technology, apparently. My battery ran out right in the middle of me telling you that when you take that can of frosting out of the fridge, when you go to use it the next time, make sure that that foil isn't on the top, because you don't want to put that in a microwave, but pop it in the microwave for about 10 to 15 seconds. It'll just loosen it up, make it easier to apply, and then I just take my offset spatula and I give it a swirl, nice even swirl on top of the cookie. Like I said before, if you're using a different shape cookie cutter, then it'll take you a little more time because you want to make it look nice. Don't just slap it on there and anyway. And then you can put colored sugar crystals on it. You can put sprinkles. By the way, where I grew up, we called them jimmies. Does anybody familiar with that term? Maybe it's more an eastern side of the US thing. Anyway, and then I would not recommend stacking these if you're storing them. If you have enough containers, I would just do one layer. If you do have to stack them, let them sit for a little bit to make sure that the frosting sets up a tad, and then maybe some wax paper in between the layers. Anyway, this is the famous sugar cookie recipe. I hope you give it a try, and give this video a thumbs up. Like it if you enjoyed baking together today, and if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel. It does help us out, and I appreciate it very much. Until next time, we'll see you later. Have a great day. Bye.